Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining in again today for another episode of Living Life on Your Terms. I'm your life coach, Jackie Wilson, and today we got a great show. We're going to talk about how does stress affect men. Wow, isn't that a great topic? I'm sure it is. And the reason why I say it's a great topic, because we've already previously talked about how does stress affect women. So now we're going to talk about how does stress affect men. Is it different? Is it the same? Does it react differently in the male's body versus it does in the female's body? Well, I'm going to share with you today. We're going to talk about all of that information, okay? So let's go ahead first and let's just kind of talk about what is stress, okay? So I have a lot of great information I want to share with you guys. So what is stress? Stress is how your body reacts to a situation that has happened to you. It could be a traumatic situation. It could be something that startles you and your body's going to react a certain way. It can also, from that reaction, can cause it to take a long term of you to deal with the stress in your body and your mind and your soul before it actually releases or leaves from your body, okay? And that has a lot to do with in terms of how you handle the stress. So let's look at in terms of how does that affect men? Okay, so I got my little notes here. We're going to go over this, okay? So now, how does this affect men? So now for stress, it has some similarity of how it affects men, just like it does for women, but just keep up with me, okay? So now, as far as for men, they can have headaches, deal with constipation, diarrhea, become irritable, upset stomach, heartburn, muscle tension. In terms of neck and back pain, they can deal with that, and chest pain. What about also feeling fatigue? They can also deal with a rapid heart rate, difficulty concentrating. They can also deal with not being able to perform sexually because of the stress, because of the, how it's affecting their body. They can also, come to the place of losing interest in being active in what you want to do, or maybe some things that they used to want to do, and they just don't have any interest anymore. That's going into more of like the behavioral side of that. But let's also talk about that. So they can deal with overeating or undereating, drug or alcohol abuse. Also, they can start smoking maybe, and even if they weren't smoking before, or better yet, they can start smoking even more as a result of the stress, okay? And then also, if they were drinking before, they can just drink even more, use even more drugs because of that, okay? Also, they may even start exercising less, or they may exercise a little bit more because of the stress. And I'm sure you probably heard your mate say, I'm going to go to the gym because I just got some stuff on my mind. I just need to work some stuff off, or, I'm just feeling a little irritated right now. Let me go to the gym. You may hear something like that, okay? That could be a sign that that person's dealing with some stress. Also, it could be that this person may have nightmares. Yes, that's what it says. They can also deal with clenching of the jaw or grinding their teeth when they're asleep. Something to think about. Can also be heavy snoring because of everything that's going on with their body. It can also be that they may not be able to sleep, or maybe sleeping too much. We deal with some of those same, behavioral signs as well, right? Also, it can be they can form obsessive compulsive disorders or behaviors as a result of this, okay? I just want to check and make sure that they lock the door, or check to make sure that, they close the door, the bathroom door or something, or maybe straighten up the bed, whatever that could be. They could just start to develop obsessive compulsive behaviors as a result of the stress, okay? You may not think that could cause that, but that's what they're saying in here, right? And my notes say that. So also it mentions that they can deal with being, want to withdraw from people, want to become isolated with people. And when we talk about the stress that we're under and what we're dealing with now with this pandemic and being quarantined into the house, we don't know how long it's going to last. We don't know when we're going back to work. If you've lost your job, you don't know when you're going to get another one, so you're concerned about the bills. If you have a business, you're concerned about your business. If you haven't gotten, a loan from the government in order to help, or if you did and you don't feel like that's enough, that's still another way of, being stressed, right? And having to deal with, what is all of this that's going on? How am I going to deal with this? How do I process all of what's going on in my life, right? So also it can affect you in a way of psychological way. Now that can be in terms of building up anxiety. You can deal with that. You can also deal with more sadness and deal with depression. You can also deal with in terms of being irritable, like I said before, where the person may say, I'm feeling a little irritable, let me go to the gym, right? Let me go play basketball or something, okay? Let me go play tennis or go play golf or whatever type of sport that they enjoy doing. But they may also lose interest in that sport as well as a result of them dealing with stress, right? It also says that they can be restless. So what about feeling anger? You know, they can express their anger in a way, and if they've never been an abusive person with all of what's going on and all of the stress and not having a job and, you know, going through the different stressors that they're dealing with in depression, that can cause a person to, you know, act out or strike out to the person that they love and don't even realize what they've done because of the stress and the dealing with the anxiety and stuff, okay? So not to say anything that it's okay for someone to be abusive. I'm not saying that, but I'm just trying to show you how the different stress and the depression can cause a person to react that way, okay? Because they're not able to deal with it. They can't handle the stress, okay? And another thing it mentions as far as they can lose interest in sex, okay? So it doesn't mean that because they don't want to sleep with you, maybe they're seeing somebody else or they're losing interest in you. It's just they're dealing with a lot of stress and they don't want to, you know, they're not interested, okay? So just plain and simple, they're just not interested. So now with what I'm sharing with you, this should give you some kind of sign so that way you can look back and say, so maybe my boyfriend is dealing with this. Maybe my husband is dealing with some stress, you know, because I watched this video and these are some of the things that it was saying. So now let's talk about in terms of the long-term effect that it can have on a male's body. So the stress can contribute to increased blood pressure, okay? So they can deal with high blood pressure. They can also deal with heart attacks, with strokes, you know, increased vulnerability to infections. Their body can become more immune to that because their immune system has started to become damaged as a result of that, right? It's become weakened because of it. It also mentions in here that it can also lead to them having prostate cancer. It says there's a study in 2013 that found that stress on the nerves increases the risk of prostate cancer and promotes tumor growth and the spread of tumors in a person's body, in a male's body, okay? So that could be, you know, a sign of it as well from what they're saying. So stress really does affect a person's body. I know when I was growing up, my mom used to say stress could kill you. And I would always wonder, why would she say that? After all the research that I've done, I understand now what she meant by that. But to hear that as a child, it didn't really register at the moment because I'm like, stress, how can that kill a person, right? You just think they're just worrying. You don't think about the internal part, how it affects your mind, your body, your soul, your heart rate, you know, your blood pressure. We don't think about those kind of things when we're dealing with stress, okay? It also says here that the person can become erectile dysfunction. Okay, so they can deal with that. They can deal with infertility. They can deal with cardiovascular disease. Also chronic gastrointestinal problems they can deal with. So it really does affect the male's body, okay? Also deal with chronic pain. They can be more susceptible to catching colds and being affected by infections because of the stress on their body and their immune system being compromised, okay? So it does affect a person. They can also deal with inflammatory in their body too, okay? Inflamed areas of their body, it can happen that way. So you want to definitely check with your significant other and find out if this is what this person is dealing with. If he is feeling stress, if he's resembling any of the symptoms or the signs that I've just shared with you today, pull him over to the side and talk to him and just say, hey, if you can't talk to me, that's okay. This, you know, maybe call your friend and talk to your friend so you can be able to talk to that person and get the stress that's on you off, you know, and be able to get back into your happy self again, you know. So during this time, it affects everybody. Everybody is dealing with stress now in some way, shape, or form. Even the entertainers are dealing with stress. Everybody's dealing with stress because we don't know what's going on. I'm sure they may have the bigger houses, but I'm sure they probably going stir crazy like, why I got to stay in this house, you know. So we're all dealing with stress. It's just on a different level for everybody around the world. Everyone's dealing with it, okay? Everyone's dealing with the anxiety of when is this going to end and why did they do this, and we have all of these different thoughts, right? So we're all dealing with some form of anxiety, some form of tension, some form of stress, some form of depression throughout the world. Each person, somebody is in that level, a different type of level each person is, okay, because of what we're dealing with. This is stressful times of what we're going through. So in order to not be stressful, not get into those dark places, you have to talk to other people. You have to be able to express how you feel. If you can't, write it down, you know, ask, you know, your mate to say, hey, well, if you don't want to talk to me, if you don't want to talk to anybody else, then just write down what you feel and just write it down in a journal, you know, hide it somewhere. I won't read it, but at least this way you can release that tension, that stress, the the way that you're feeling, those emotions, that negative energy that's flowing through your body. If you write it down, you can get that off of your chest. If you call and talk to a family member, you can express how you're feeling. So it's so many different ways that you can think of to do that. I'm also going to put into the description on here, I'm going to put in there a resource number for mental health, okay, so that you can call that number. I'm also going to put in there the suicide prevention. So if you're feeling stressed after, reading this and you listening to this video and you're like, wow, I didn't know that this is what I was feeling, then you have resource numbers that you can call in order to talk to someone to help you through the process of what you're going through, okay? There's nothing wrong with someone being depressed. We all deal with it at some point in our life. I've even dealt with being depressed. I dealt with it some years ago in my marriage and didn't even know that I was chronic depressed. Hadn't even heard, what is chronic depression? But that's what I was told. I was getting up, doing my everyday routines, every day, doing everything I was supposed to do. I didn't have as much energy some days, but I would get up and go through. And you know what she told me? You were on autopilot. That's what you were doing. Your body is just so used to this routine that you got up and just did what you were supposed to do. But you were dealing with chronic depression based on the information that I shared with her of some things that I had been going through. And this is what she said over a course of time. So the same thing can happen to men where they can deal with chronic depression and don't even know that they're dealing with it, okay? So after I've shared this information with you today, just love on your mate and just let them know, hey, you're here for them, I don't condone abuse at all. Trust me, I don't. I'm a survivor of abuse. So if you're in that kind of a situation, that does not justify that this person's dealing with stress or they've lost a loved one. Abuse does not justify that something like this happening to a person does not justify them being abusive to you, okay? So keep that in mind. I'm not trying to condone anything that somebody's doing. I'm just trying to share with you how stress can affect a male and how they can lash out and become physically abusive or verbally abusive, or maybe not, and they just may be stressed out. Sometimes they may get into a dark place, and I hate to say it, but they may have thoughts of suicide. They may even take their own life. And that has happened since we've been going through this pandemic, that some people have taken their life, as a result of that. And it's been mostly men that have done that, So just something to kind of think about. Men are strong and we want them to be strong, and, they feel like they're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulder. So just some things to kind of think about when you look at your spouse and you wondering if your spouse is depressed or, dealing with any type of anxiety or stress or something like that. Just love on that person. If they don't want to talk to you, don't get offended. Let them talk to someone else that they feel comfortable with, okay? Because you know yourself, you probably got a good friend that you tell everything to, but you probably wouldn't tell your spouse or your significant other some of that information, right? So then allow him to have that same, outlet with a friend, okay? And with that being said, I have shared a lot of information with you guys. I always love coming before you all, sharing this great information. I'm a resource person, so I'm always one that's going to talk about self-love, self-care, loving on yourself and taking care of yourself, and healing is always going to be out of my mouth, the forefront of my mouth. I'm going to bring that up in the forefront, okay? I'm always going to talk about those things because it's so very, very important. So now with that being said, I have enjoyed the video for tonight. I look forward to seeing you all on the next video. So stay tuned. We're going to continue to keep talking about different types of ways that you can help yourself to become your greatest version, your unique, your true, authentic, unique self, okay? I want you to get to that place. So with that being said, you guys have a great night, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.